Here is the next project. What I want to do is I want to extend this little bit of roof that sticks out and forms this soffit right here, and I want to extend it all the way down the back of our house. I've been kind of procrastinating on this one, but we're going to hit it now. Let's go.
You're watching On the Mark with Mark.
The issue I have with our house here is there is this 2-story tall wall here, and our deck is right off the back of the house here, and sitting next to this 2-story wall, it makes you feel very small. It's a funny little thing. It's a I don't know what you want to call it. It's an architectural element to the house that I thought was handled very poorly. So what I want to do is I want to bring the scale of this 2-story wall down to something more of a personal size. So I think I can do that by extending this roof line all the way across the back of the house. And what my hope is, what that'll do is, instead of the house being this kind of a rectangle, I guess, but it's sort of a square, big block of siding just all the way up there. It's broken up a little bit by the windows, that helps some. But by putting this roof across here, I'm going to be dividing it like a little bit like a layer cake. And there's going to be a smaller section down here, and then the roof, and then there's going to be a longer section that's also scaled down this way up on top. So your eye is going to feel like this is the ceiling in this area. And I'm going to hang patio lights across here too. But then I think less noticeable will be the second story up here. And we're going to be doing the house in a 2-tone siding. There's going to be a darker green on the bottom, and then this is one of the dividing lines, will be this roof, and then there's a lighter green on top, which I hope lightens up the feel of the back of the house here, so that it's not so heavy and oppressing. I mean, it just feels like it's just towering over you. So, I mean, I'm not an architect, but this is just what I think about the back of this house. Another goofy thing is this roof stops right here in the middle of this sliding glass door, which has always just caught me as kind of odd. So by extending that roof all the way across the back, it adds kind of an eyebrow to this window here. That's the window over our kitchen sink, and that other window that I recently added in an earlier video, if you want to go back and look at that, down at that end. So we'll be able to have windows cracked open a little bit while it's raining, so we can enjoy the nice coolness and listen to the rain. So that'll be a nice little added feature of having this roof down here. I've got some pictures of the house before we tore all the siding off and before I moved the sliding glass door down there, but I would add this roof line across the back whether or not I was moving that sliding glass door or not. So here's the pictures of what the house looked like before, and see if you can kind of get an idea for what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to build some 2x4 triangles that are going to come down here just like this, and then I'm going to have another one that comes across the bottom and goes over to the house right here. And then there's going to be another 2x4 that comes up the side of the wall, and that one is going to be flat on the wall. So I'll be able to screw it onto the side of the house with some good length deck screws there. And I want to build all of these little triangles kind of like as modules down in my shop, and I'll determine how many of them I need, and we'll be able to kind of mass produce them down in the shop, and then we'll bring them out here, and we'll start screwing them on the house after we shoot a straight line across here. I can see that the back of the house it's not perfectly straight, so I'm going to have to be doing some shimming to make sure I keep the pitch exactly right, and I'm going to leave the tail of the 2x4 a couple of inches long, so at the end, after I get them all mounted on here, then I'll snap a chalk line across the end of them, and then with the level I'll make a plumb line on them, and I'll come in and I'll trim them all so that they're just laser straight around the end. And then I see that this house has a 2x6 on the end, and that's really not necessary, and there is a considerable expense here. Wood is really expensive right now, so a 1x6 ought to be just fine for right here. So I think that's what I'm going to do, is put a 1x6 on here. And then I got to match up whatever kind of sheathing is on here too. And then I'll have to get some shingles. And then when we redo this, the whole outside of the house is getting recovered. And that includes the gutters. So then I'm going to have this gutter tilted the opposite direction. Instead of discharging down at that end of the house, because I have a water issue in the basement there, I'm going to have the guys discharge it down here. This is the lower end of the property, so that when the water gets to the ground, it will just move away. Over here, it actually can move sort of parallel with the house, so maybe that's one of the issues there. So hopefully we can get a lot of things straightened out here. So let's see what it takes to make this little triangle. This house has this black fiberboard on the outside as the sheathing. I don't know what that stuff is called. I've always called it cornboard, but I think what I'm thinking of is kind of a brown color. But anyway, it seems to have a little bit of tar or something just on the surface to give it a little bit of waterproofing maybe. But it's kind of a soft stuff. And I'm real leery about putting my triangle on there and then trying to screw right through that stuff, because I think with just a small footprint there, that over time, and even just nailing the sheathing on and doing the shingles, that it could end up kind of drooping down. Now up on top I actually have the rim joists for the floor of the second floor, so I've got a good solid surface to screw into up there, so that's great. But down here I don't. So what I'm considering doing is running a 1x4 all the way across the back of the house. So that way the load will be spread out over the 4x4, but it's not really, it's just wherever the 2x4 is and where they intersect. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. I could cut that cornboard out of there, which I kind of hate to do because that's really exposing everything on the house. Well, anyway, as of right now, I think I've got the angle of the roof captured, so this can still be a decent template for me to make the triangle parts that I'm going to be fastening to the house. And then I'll adjust the length of this lower board here depending on how I go about attacking this down here. So this is still a work in progress, so we'll see how it goes. I haven't bought any of the materials for this yet, and that was one of the reasons for making this template board. Is there's going to be another board that goes across the end of this here, and instead of being 2x4 this way, it's going to be this way. So then that'll give me a decent surface to be able to screw right into the house, so I can get it hung on there good and solid. So I just need to get the total length of these three pieces, and then we'll see if I can get it out of a 2x4 by 6 foot, or if I have to go to a 2x4 by 8 foot. And I don't want a lot of waste, but if I go to an 8 footer and I can get like one more of these pieces out of it, you know, and still be using the 8 foot, it's going to kind of come down to how big of waste pieces will I have left over as to whether or not I go with a 6 or an 8, because 2x4s are expensive right now. It's really crazy. So I'm trying to keep the cost down here. I also have to come up with some sheathing on here too, so that'll be a decent measurement for how wide I need to go. Hopefully I can get maybe 3 pieces out of a 4x8 sheet of plywood. That would be ideal. I know I won't be able to get 4 out of it, but boy, if 3 would work, that would be great. We'll see how it goes. Another nice load from Menards here. We got everything we need to build that little roof, except for the sheathing and shingles. But most of it is ready now. I've cut the house wrap off in the area where I'm going to add my 2x4. Now, after some measuring, I have determined that a 1x material is a better fit here. Now I've foamed above and below this 1x4 so that the fiberglass insulation is no longer exposed. So I have a little more protection over the next day or two that this is exposed to the elements. There's really no need above this window here because there's a full header there and no fiberglass insulation was exposed. But I'll be trimming some of that off as I put my roof triangles on there. I've built one of the triangles that are going to form that little roof that's going to go across the back of the house. This is what it looks like. This is my prototype, and you'll see how, okay, the sheathing's going to go on here, but this board here on the back, now that's going to have a good place for me to be able to run screws right into the side of the house so that I can get a good bite on it. So hopefully this has some decent strength. So I probably won't use this one, but maybe. I need 22. Here's the wood I have stacked up here that I'm going to use to make these triangles. These are 6 foot long 2x4s, and I can get 1 out of each one of these. Okay, the first step, off of every one of these, I've cut the backboard. That's this one right here. Now I've got the first cut of this bottom board made. That's 25 degrees the long way. Now I just need to cut them to length, and you saw how I did that, made that kind of a makeshift fixture on my miter saw in order to get that cut. Now it's just a block so I can get the length and a 90-degree cut. So this should go quick. We're making more progress here. We have all of the boards that go down here cut out now. So we are ready for the assembly process. Yay. a nice pile of the triangles I need to make that roof. So they're all screwed and construction adhesive together, and now they're ready to go on the house. So let's head out there. Outside now, I've got one of them attached to the existing roof there to match that same pitch on the roof. And then if we go clear down the roof, down this way, I've got this one attached flush with the end of the house. And then this one I added a diagonal brace to, because we're going to be tying a nylon string onto the end of this and then pulling it super tight down to the other end, and then that's going to be what we're going to line all of the pitches up with. The other thing I determined, this is an assumption I'm making, is that from the bottom of this rim joist up to the top here is, I'm going to make them all 4 inches, because that seems to be a line, level or not, that I have that I can use. So I'm going to snap a chalk line across there. That'll be where I line them up here, and then I'll adjust the pitch with a shim down below, possibly a shim on the top, depending on where it's needed. Here are my 2 lines. I've got the string right here, and I hope you can see it. There's a blue chalk line right here. I didn't put the string right down on the wood, because what happens then is you end up touching it, and you touch it, and you touch it, and you end up making kind of a bow out of it. So what it is it's up just enough for me to stick my finger in there, up to the end of my fingernail. So that's my measurement that I'll be making. So the string will stay this far away from each one of the little mini, let's call them trusses. Okay, after I get it initially screwed on, then I check my gap and throw some shims. This one's going to need a lot of shim to bring it up. It needs to be up just the thickness of my finger. A little more. Oh my gosh. A little bit more. There we go. Okay, that's good. Then check for plumb. There's plumb. Double check the height. Looks good. Got my 3 screws here. Right there. I need to move these 2 exhaust ports. One of them goes to our half bath here on the first floor, and the other one is the exhaust hood over our stove. So I need to move them up as high as I can get them, and so that's like half a hole. So I've routed out 3/4 of an inch here, and then I'm going to cut a piece of 3/4 inch plywood to fit in this hole, and then I'll drill the new, I think it's a 3-inch diameter hole in the 3/4 inch plywood and through this rim joist, and then I'll keep them right up to the very highest part of this, so that I'm out of the way of my new roof that's going to come along here. You can see how close it is right here. So I think that'll do it. There's not much more I can do, so taking my best shot right here. Here's my piece of plywood. Got a little gap at the top, but that's okay. Otherwise, it's nice and flush. And I like to use cherry veneer plywood on stuff like this, which is so sweet. Actually, it's just what I happen to have in stock. There we go. 2 holes. Okay, the idea here is now there's nothing for the center of this hole saw to drill into. So the outside of these first holes that I drilled are gonna guide the hole saw through. Now I don't know if my cordless drill has enough power to run this saw or not, but I don't have a whole lot to cut through. Plus I only have to go 3/4 of an inch in. Boy, that was easy. Let's see how this one goes. That was easier than the plywood on the drill press. Well, there we go. We've got 2 holes in there that are full size for vents. So that's awesome. Oh, and they're up fairly high too. I snapped a chalk line across the top, and then I used a level to cut each of the ends off plumb, so they're all even. We've got the fascia board on now. Okay, this is Tom. He's been helping me with shingling today. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, so here's the roof. There's the transition area, and we got it all the way across. That was the air compressor rudely interrupting me. So as you can see, we've got the shingles all on, and I've got the flashing on there, and the last row is on, and I've blackjacked the nails. And then I also went up this side of the roof because we have a leak over here. So I've re-flashed that area. So hopefully after the siding guys get through, that won't leak anymore. I think it looks really good. So I'll get some pictures from out in the yard, and we'll get some before and afters. Well, there still are a few small things to do on this project, but the majority of this is finished, and so I'm gonna call it done. We got that roof on there and shingled. These 2 windows now have more protection than they did before. Of course, when the siding guys get here, everything is going to start looking great. So we're really looking forward to that. I'm one step closer to being ready for them to show up. We got a few other things to do yet, and then we will have the siding begin. So we'll probably see some videos of that too. So that should be really cool. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed watching this project here and liked my architectural detail that I've added to this house, hit the like button. I do mostly home improvement stories, working on my Corvette, some woodworking. That's the kind of stuff I do. Basically, whatever I'm working on this week, I like doing a video about it. Please subscribe. It helps me out. I'm working towards that 1,000 subscribers, and I've got a ways to go yet. Thanks for watching. Watching my video.